Senate Democrats introduced a bill to require U.S. Supreme Court justices to provide a written explanation and a vote breakdown for decisions on their emergency docket, also known as the shadow docket. The shadow docket, something that the court is relying more heavily on in recent years, is when the justices take immediate action in a case, as opposed to the normal, lengthy briefing and oral argument process that happens on the regular appeals docket. Decisions on the shadow docket do not require any written explanation from the court and also do not require the justices to record which way they voted on the ruling. The justices have utilized this emergency shadow docket for decisions affecting the entire country, like COVID-19 policies, abortion access, immigration, student loans, and congressional map drawing, and much more. While many shadow docket decisions may go on to have a full briefing and oral argument, these emergency interim rulings can wreak havoc on the status of our laws. Law professor and Supreme Court expert Steve Vladeck, in his book all about the shadow docket, says that the court has dramatically expanded its use of the shadow docket since 2017, regularly making decisions that affect millions of Americans without public hearings and without explanation, through cryptic late-night rulings that leave lawyers and citizens scrambling.
The reality is that over the last 5 or 6 years, we've seen the Supreme Court use what used to be rare orders that we actually saw 1980s, 1990s in the death penalty context, where, of course, they were enormously important to the state and to the prisoner, but they didn't tend to have broader implications on statewide or federal policy. Versus since 2015, 16, 17, now if it's a big policy dispute, whether it's Trump immigration policies or state COVID mitigation measures or Biden's rescission of Trump policies or the student loan program or COVID vaccination mandates, the Supreme Court is handling so many of these through these emergency applications.
The bill's lead sponsor, Senator Richard Blumenthal, said that the Shadow Docket Sunlight Act would open these decisions to greater public view and scrutiny, literally bringing light and accountability to outcomes of important cases now handed down in peremptory silence. The bill is co-sponsored by many Senate Democrats, including Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, Senate Judiciary Committee Chair Dick Durbin, and others including Cory Booker, Amy Klobuchar, and Bernie Sanders. The bill would require each justice to provide a written explanation and an indication of how they voted on the ruling. It would also require the Federal Judicial Center to provide a report to Congress each year on the Supreme Court's compliance with the law. A handful of Democratic senators recently criticized the Supreme Court's increased use of its shadow docket for a lack of transparency, especially for important issues with national implications. Senator Cory Booker said all Americans should be alarmed by the Supreme Court's growing reliance on its shadow docket to resolve controversial and high-profile cases without any transparency. No substantive explanations, oral arguments, or reasoning. This further pushes the court's deliberations and decisions out of view of public scrutiny and shields it from accountability. Booker noted that the Shadow Docket Sunlight Act can help restore public trust in our court. The Supreme Court has used this emergency shadow docket to issue highly consequential rulings about elections and voting rights. In 2022, the justices allowed both Alabama and Louisiana, through its shadow docket, to use congressional maps that lower maps ruled to violate the Voting Rights Act by diluting Black voting power. As a result, voters in these states cast their ballots in 2022 under districts ruled to be illegal by federal courts, helping Republicans take control of the House. Thanks for watching Democracy Docket. If you want to stay up to date on the latest voting and election news in the courts, make sure to subscribe to our newsletters. You can click the link on the screen or in the description of this video. I'm Sophie, and I'll see you next time.